If you want to speed up combat and make it seem more cinematic, replace hit points with hits. Today on Dungeon Craft. Welcome to Dungeon Craft. I'm Professor Dungeonmaster.
And I'm Deathbringer. Level up your game by subscribing and order my t-shirt below.
If you want to speed up combat and make it seem more cinematic, one of the most effective things you could do is eliminate hit points and replace them with hits. I've covered this on this channel before, but that's a couple of years ago. And now I have a much better camera, thanks to you patrons out there, and I can do it much more succinctly and much more clearly. So here's the concept. On a successful hit, the attacker inflicts one hit on their target. On a natural 20, it's 2 hits. A rogue sneak attack causes 2 hits. Spells inflict 1 hit for every caster spell level, so a 3rd level spell like Fireball causes 3 hits. When characters hit 6th level, they do an extra hit. These numbers are based on the countless Reddit spreadsheets calculating average damage for every class. But back to the Fireball, it does 8d6 damage for an average of 28 hit points, so what I'm doing is just rounding off to the nearest 10, which is 30, and dropping the 1's digit to turn it into a 3. True, you will lose resolution, there's no arguing that, but you will save time, and depending on your group and play style, the trade-off might be worth it to you. To calculate hits, round the monster's hit points off to the nearest 10 and divide by 10. So a troll's 84 hit points becomes 8 hits. An ogre's 59 hit points becomes 6 hits, and an orc's 15 hit points becomes 1 hit. This creates a game that is faster, more fluid, and more cinematic, more like the Lord of the Rings films, where Legolas just picks off orcs with one shot. This eliminates the players having to roll the dice, total them up, add ability score modifiers, come up with a final number, relay it to the Game Master, and the Game Master has to subtract that from the monster's total hit points. And if you actually time a combat round with a stopwatch, which I recommend every Dungeon Master do at least once, you'll see that it could take 10 minutes or more for a single round of combat for a group of 4 to 5 players. And to me, that's just too long, especially if I'm a player and I just whiff and roll a 2 and it's like, okay, now I gotta sit around for 10 minutes doing nothing while my friends do math. It's like watching paint dry, especially on Zoom. I've noticed over the pandemic, the damage calculations take a long time and it's where the players zone out. It's Professor Dungeonmaster's incontrovertible law of game design. The more detail and steps in your combat system, the more the game slows down. That doesn't mean it's bad, just slower. The hit concept deliberately sacrifices resolution for speed and playability. That's why a number of tabletop RPGs, including the recent Viking Death Squad, use hits. In VDS, gunfire does 1 hit, and Space Marine armor can take up to 3 hits. After that, your character is just dead. It's quick, clean, and simple. Now, like any rules change, you might want to run this one by your players first in case they have any objections, but I know a pro DM who literally makes his living running D&D. It's his only job, and he reports his players, especially newer ones, really love the idea of hits, and they're far more engaged when he runs the game via Zoom, and that's been my experience as well. But if you have a lot of players like I do, or very young players who have difficulty doing math, or you're just pressed for time, having a red dragon have 25 hits is a lot easier than calculating 256 hit points. But that's what I think. What do you think? Share your ideas in the comments below. Also below you'll find links to Dungeon Craft on Facebook and Patreon, where you can get a copy of my rule set, Deathbringer, as well as a copy of my modules Macbeth and Frankenstein, available at questgivers.com. But don't go away, click on these videos for more great tips and hacks, and may all your rolls be 20s.
Deathbringer again. If you want a real hit, click on the video on the upper left-hand side where I give love advice. And get my t-shirt below.